changed significantly from what I saw when I graduated, right? Again, thank you very much for inviting me, because, wearing this robe actually takes me back to my graduation day, right? In fact, I was looking at some of the pictures yesterday, from my graduation ceremony as well. So, thank you once again for that. So I was wondering, what is that I can speak about while I'm here today, right? Obviously, I don't want to sound like a boomer uncle, but unfortunately, I did narrow down to a few things which I thought was very, very important, because there is a lot of things have changed in the last 3 decades, right? Technology or whatever you want to call it, it's all has gone through immense amount of changes, right? But one thing I felt, right, what I have started practicing when I started my career, which I learned from my parents, my teachers, or my mentors, right? What I've learned from them, I felt all of those things are still intact, right? So I want to share a few of those aspects which I follow even today religiously. I'm not just preaching here because I got an opportunity, but these are something very true, close to my heart, right? So these are few things which I follow, and I wanted to make sure, all of you hear from me directly, right? So the first one is, I think Dr. Pallavi also covered some of these aspects. I'm going to probably repeat, right? First thing is being humble, okay? So I think being grounded is something I really believe, it's very important to all of us, because you should always think about where you came from, right? I'm sure, I'm going to wish all of you the best in terms of reaching great heights, but never forget where you started, right? Always be grateful to the people who supported you, including today, right? Your faculty members, your professors, your principal, the parents, the friends, the siblings who are with you when you went through this journey, and finally you are here on this big day, right? So staying humble is something very close to my heart, right? The second one, I think, which is something I personally love, enjoy doing it, be hands-on. Okay, most of these I'm going to talk about start with H, okay, hands-on, okay. So what I mean by that is, see, today when you start your career, when you start growing, you'll soon realize that you'll start losing touch with a lot of things, right? Whether it is technology, whether it is people, whether it is process, always be hands-on, right? And I see some people struggle when they speak from 30,000 feet above and not knowing what the ground reality is, right? So always, try and be hands-on as much as possible in whatever function, whatever work you do. It's always going to help you in the long run. The third one is stay hungry, okay? Again, I don't mean by an appetite standpoint, but then the appetite, what I'm talking about is constant learning, right? You have to learn. As Dr. Pallavi was talking about, you have to grow, you have to relearn, right? Again, I think it's very important to reinvent yourself every day so that you can stay relevant, okay? So that's very, very important, especially in day and time where every day there is something new from a technology standpoint. So your learning does not stop here, right? You have to continue to learn to stay relevant. The next one is, humor, okay? Keep the humor in your life. I know life gets very hard, you've worked very hard to get here, but then always remember, right? Even, in fact, what I like is even people, when I talk about resilience, right? The people who are resilient, who can bounce back, these are the people I've always seen. They make time to even, find humor in the hardest of their times, right? So make sure there is a place for humor in your lives all the time, right? Because otherwise the world will make you so busy, right? It's so much to ask you that I don't want you losing sight of humor, okay? And the next one is, I want to tell you, which is very, very important, because today I see a lot of these, the current generation gives up very easily. So hang on, okay? There is so much in life, right? You can't give up so easily, right? And I want to share a very personal story. When I started my, company, Silver Oak Health, in 2015, 3 years into our operations, we ran out of funds, like many startups do, okay? So we had to make a very, very hard choices, right? We had, money left for 3 months to survive, run the operations, or downsize the team and survive for a year, right? That was a choice in front of us. And obviously, you know what choice we made, right? We had to make the tough choice. We had to let go some people. But we knew if we stay in the business, there is going to be business out there. Customers are going to come reach out to us. So that's what we did, right? We hung in there. And today we are 10 years later with 400 customers, serving thousands and thousands of people every day, taking care of their mental health needs, right? So always hang in there. There is going to be tough times. Don't give up, okay? That's very important. And then the last one, which is also very personal to me, is being human, okay? We live in a very fast-paced world, things, happen so quickly, and it's so easy for us to lose sight of why are we here? What is the purpose? What is the larger purpose of us being here, right? So it's very, very important to always remember being human is very, very important. In fact, again, I'll share a very small story. When I used to work in the US, I had a colleague named Steve, and he used to write something called RHB next to his name. And I always assumed it was some kind of a certification he sought, whatever, right? And finally, one day I asked him, I was very curious, what is this RHB, right? I've never heard this kind of a certification. I asked, Steve, what is this RHB? He said, it means a regular human being. I said, what? He said, yeah, it's very hard to find these days, right? That's what he told me, and it's absolutely right. It kind of stuck with me forever, right? And I always ask myself, how can I be an RHB in my own life? Right? Because we lose sight of who we are, what is our purpose, right? So it's very important to make sure, you stay grounded, some of the, things which I talk about from a mental health standpoint, right? Being mindful, practice gratitude, being kind, all of these are small experiences which will help you, be human as well, right? So that is something very, very important. So these are some small things which I wanted to add as part of, my address here, okay? And before I close, one last thought I want to talk about, right? So today, all of you are graduating together, right? Some of you may pursue your master's degrees. Some of you may pursue, a professional career, right? It's absolutely okay. Everybody has, different plans, which is absolutely fine. And I want to make sure that, life is going to take all of us in different directions. And I want you to think about life as a train, okay? Every train, if you look at, has a different route, has different destinations, has a different start time, has a different time it reaches a destination. So similarly, your career, your life is going to be something like these trains, right? You'll all reach your destination at different times. So do not compare yourself saying that, somebody reached ahead of me. Does it mean that I'm bad, I'm not, good enough? None of those things, right? So I want to make sure that everybody focus at your own journey, right? What you can achieve. Your journey might be more scenic than somebody else, right? You may enjoy that view, so you might reach your destination much later, which is absolutely fine. So make sure you always remember this, right? Because comparison is not going to take you anywhere. It's going to kill the joy of your journey itself. So make sure you remember this. And lastly, I want to quote Dr. Pallavi, right? She said that the degree, the graduation, whatever you've done today is going to, obviously open doors for you, right? But the things what I talked about, right? Your character, your attitude, all the H's what I talked about is the one which is going to determine how far you walk through the doors, right? So thank you for this opportunity and wishing you all the best. And again, I can't see you all coming on the stage and collecting your degrees. So thank you. Good luck.